What I was looking for was a hook comparable to Gentlemen, Start Your Engines. And I tried Ladies and Gentlemen, Fasten Your Seatbelts, and Man Your Battle Stations, and a few of those, and it was crickets, you know, it was pretty bad. And of course, the greatest of all times, Muhammad Ali, used to say, "I'm so pretty, I'm ready to rumble, rumble, young man, rumble." So I fine-tuned it to Let's Get Ready to Rumble, and that's what you hear today.
He was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was discharged from the Army in 1967, and he found work as a car salesman and also as a model. Encouraged by his son, he became a ring announcer in October of 1982. In 1983, in an attempt to energize the crowd during pre-fight introductions, he coined the phrase, "Let's get ready to rumble." 2012 Hall of Fame inductee in the non-partisan category, Michael Buffer.
I grew up in the Philadelphia area. For a short time, I lived in South Philly. A real Leave It to Beaver childhood. My parents were my foster parents. I was with them from the time I was 11 months old. I always knew my real mother, my biological mother, and never had a relationship or even knew my birth father. I was raised with my foster name, but I was never legally adopted. So when I went into the Army, they searched your birth certificate. My birth certificate had Buffer on it. So the day I went to report for duty and put my hand up, they said, "Oh, and by the way, your name isn't Michael Huber, it's Michael Buffer." So from that day on, I was Michael Buffer. So when I get out of the service, you know, I didn't feel like going through the trouble of, you know, spending the money to get the name changed, and I stayed Michael Buffer. Well, I came out of the Army, I was a photographer in the service. I thought that's where I would head to, and then when I found out at the age of 23, being a young married man with a baby, that $50 a week as an assistant wasn't going to cut it. So you know, like all young guys, I loved cars, and I became a car salesman. A pretty bad car salesman too, I must admit. I wasn't, I didn't have that killer instinct or whatever it takes to like really, you know, get somebody in the car and put them over the curb. But at least I got a free car to drive, and I was just getting by in those days. And somehow around 1970, 76, 77, I, you know, stumbled into somebody said, "What size do you wear? And let me see your hands. And how tall are you? And what do you weigh?" And 2 days later, I was in a fashion show, and I guess I haven't really had a real 9-to-5 job since. Atlantic City started having, you know, they wanted to bring in more than just the busloads of the grandmoms and stuff to play the slot machines. They had a lot of entertainment, and one of the big things was boxing. Watching on TV once, a ring announcer gave a split decision out of sequence. In other words, when he gave the first two scores, you knew who won. So it took away that drama that when you get to that third score, after you've said, you know, this guy, that guy, and the winner by split decision, when you give that third score, hush, quiet, everybody waits, and new, or and still, the champion. And it just, this guy just didn't do it with that drama. And my son said, "You know, you could do that." And I guess he probably assumed I could do it because at the time, with modeling, I'd been doing TV commercials and that sort of thing in the Philadelphia, New York area. I kind of like thought, oh, that could be fun. And I just got my foot in the door.
All right, enough about these guys. Well, it all began in October. A young lady by the name of Toby Berlin, she was executive director of Playboy Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. So she got this letter from this guy that said, "I want to be a ring announcer," and it was a pitch and everything. But she thought, yeah, why not? It was Tuesday night fights on USA Cable, and you know, I wasn't bad. I was horrible. It was a disaster. I mean, I was nervous, but I was terrible. I mean, the first time I got a chance, oh my gosh, I was really, really bad. But I waited, and I watched the tape, and I said, well, I got to do this better, do that better, and 6 months later, I got another chance.
You know, the real thing is that I'm a fan. And I can still remember how excited I would be as a kid when I would watch the All-Star game, because it was really exciting for me. And I thought it was really exciting to see those players get introduced and line up on the first base line, then line up on the third base line. I like that. I like that whole feeling of the crowd reaction to an introduction. So introducing the fighters, that really became my priority. I didn't know that about things like timing and spacing, and I remember a really good friend of mine who passed away, and he told me and he had this great voice, this Hollywood type guy. He would say, "Michael, when you say let's get ready to rumble, shut the hell up." I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Shut up. They want to react. They enjoy it. It's a real phrase you've got there." Because I used to say, "Let's get ready to rumble, 12 rounds of boxing." In the heavyweight, I didn't have that oomph that I wanted. I wasn't trying to draw attention to myself or the phrase. So I started to give it a little bit of a pause after I said it, and then there was a reaction. But you know, I started to see, before a big fight, I would see the headline of the Philadelphia Daily News, "Let's get ready to rumble." The whole page. I thought, you know what, maybe I better make sure I own this. I'm the one that made it popular. I should try to control it. And I started seeing lawyers and trying to put it together to make it a registered trademark, which I did. So then when I started being on television, and ring announcer Michael Buffer, ring announcer Michael Buffer. Sure enough, the Buffer family out here in California saw me on TV, and Bruce and Brian asked their dad, my biological father, said, "This guy's got the same name as us. Hardly anybody has that name." And he said, "Oh yeah, that's your brother." As I got to know Bruce better, he was a businessman, and I was getting a lot of things coming in about, can you do this? Can you do the introductions for the Dallas Cowboys? Can you? We'd like to have you play yourself in a movie and everything. So I needed representation, and I needed somebody that could go out and say, "Look, I've got this guy that, you may not know the name, but if I say, let's get ready to rumble, oh yeah, that guy." And we formed a partnership, and it took off.
Now, in a few years, I found myself traveling all over the country announcing fights. When Mike Tyson became heavyweight champion in the late 80s, that was indeed a big break for me. It's just been, a great ride. The phone never stopped ringing. I had to bring my brother Bruce Buffer on to help me out and man the phones, because it's pretty hard to, say, well, I want to get this much. And Bruce is a pretty good businessman, and he took over. Eventually, he became my business partner to help with the trademark.
Well, the biggest thing we did was video games. We've had 3 different video games out, but we really struck gold with the first one, which was on Dreamcast from Midway back in the middle 90s. And that was that was probably the biggest venture that we've done. And then I've done a lot of commercials that have been national and a lot of different products, from Budweiser, Progressive Insurance, different cereals and cheeses and things like that. Were just voiceovers, and just quite a few different spots, and products that have been, we've licensed the phrase and my likeness for different things, and it's done very, very well. The big thing now is to have, like, they want to have 2 girls wearing a sexy outfit. It's like standing behind my shoulders, and make that part of the attraction of what you see on screen. And I'd see that the girls would stare at the camera. And so the performer in me would say, "Listen, ladies, don't stare at the camera. Go like this. Make the room bigger." If they just stand there and pose, because they're models, they're like looking at the camera. I'd say, and like when I say, "Let's get ready to rumble," do this or go like this, and like react to the crowd and have fun. don't just be a poser. And so now they're actually enjoying it more, and you can see it. It just gives a better image because we are basically performing if we're on camera. I mean, I can remember really being nervous, when I first started doing this. But in 1983, Davey Moore fought Roberto Duran. It was the first sellout in Madison Square Garden. And man, I was really nervous. A sellout in Madison Square Garden. And I hadn't even been doing ring announcing for a year. Before the main event, there was a great lineup of current and former champions that I could introduce, and they came up into the ring. And at the time was Mancini, Larry Holmes, Kenny Norton, but Muhammad Ali was there, and he was the last one. And I don't know why, but I said, oh, just stay in the ring. Each guy as they come, stay in the ring. And they just all lined up like this. And then I introduced Muhammad Ali. And I can still remember the feeling as I'm introducing him, saying, Jesus, I'm going to introduce Muhammad Ali to a sold-out Madison Square Garden. And I said, he is known as, and perhaps he really is. And I just went, the greatest of all times. With it, right into the microphone, real loud. The three-time heavyweight and introduced Muhammad Ali. And the place went absolutely insane. And I was never nervous after that.
My mother and dad would have been 100 this year. My mother left quite a while ago, but my dad almost made it, 96 years old, and wish he was here. But I've got my beautiful wife Christine here, and thanks to her, she keeps me focused, happy, healthy, and also thanks for keeping me young and helping to make me love life more than ever. And I really appreciate it. I love you, honey.
Michael Buffer is a sports and boxing fan as a kid and a young man who just kind of got lucky to get his foot in the door to be involved with one of his favorite sports in 1982 and ended up making a living at it and enjoying every moment that I've had doing it.